Christmas is coming up, and as believers, there's a reason why we celebrate Christmas. And don't get me wrong, if you have kids, if you have a family, like, I get it, right? Like, for them, it's about Santa and the presents and whatnot, and that's what they think of. That's their priority. However, you need to reinforce. I think it's imperative that you reinforce why we really celebrate Christmas, and that's the birth of Jesus. And so many people will overlook it, and they'll be like, well, my kids are too young, they don't really need to know it. But I can tell y'all right now, my daughter, my oldest, she knows that Jesus died. She has her Bible, and she's like, oh yeah, that's Jesus on the cross there. But then she also can flip 2 or 3 pages in her kid's Bible over and say that's also Jesus when he's going up to heaven and to be seated at the right hand of the Father. So I'm telling you, like, kids are very smart, but also you need to teach them these things at a young age, because it's not okay. I won't say it that way. I would love to be blessed with 4 kids, whether it's 3 girls and 2 boys. I would love for that to be the case.
I understand.
However, I would be upset. I wouldn't be up.
You would be disappointed if it was 3 girls and a boy.
Yeah, because
see, that's what I'm saying. It's not an exact science, so you can't sit here and this ain't like Russian roulette where you're feeling it. One more roll. Hey, that ain't how this works. Yeah. That's why I'm like, you're blessed to have a son. So I'm like, you know what? Let's pour everything we got. And I have a son now to carry out the name. And, if God bless us and we end up with an extra one, then so be it. I have my son, so I'm good. I think that's the best approach. So if you do have another one, you won't be disappointed because it's still a blessing from God. And he gave you, like you said, you have a son now to carry out your name. I would look at it from that perspective, unless you're just done. And if you're not done, then whatever God bless you with, he already gave you a son. Lord, whatever you bless, I'm going to pour into him. I'm going to love him. I'm going to, that's it. There is no disappointment in that perspective.
Yeah, because she was like, if we're done, she's like, oh, you got to go get the surgery. And I'm like, that's a commitment. And I don't know if I'm ready for that commitment where they, especially like the little surgery. No, look, unless I'm dying.
That's the first time, and I think I've heard that part. Usually it's the lady that gets the tubes tied, but in this scenario, once you have that surgery done, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah, like I know they're like it's possible in the sense of like there has been successful cases where they reversed it. However,
but it's not 100%.
It's not.
But it's so much easier with a female just to get her tubes untied.
Yeah,
so much easier.
Yeah.
That's been proven and gone on for decades. So the success rate with a female doing it is much higher than that of you doing it. It's almost like playing Russian roulette with you. It's like 50-50. It may work, it may not.
Well, and that's the thing. I was like,
but no, I just say count your blessings. I would be happy to have as many kids as you have. That's awesome. So I'm like, bro, just be happy, be blessed.
Well, it's like we said, we got to start, it's just one day at a time. So we're here for now. And then
because if 6 months from now, you don't know where you're going to be. A year from now,
yeah,
financially, you might be on top of the world. Everything is just falling into place. You're being blessed. You're excited. And normally with that type of excitement, then you're like, you know what?
Comes baby in.
And all of a sudden, God just bless you at that time with another baby. And it doesn't matter. As long as the baby is healthy, that's all you pray for. You're like, Lord, look at your blessings, God, I don't have room for. I can't keep up with all the blessings. So I say, as I always tell you, take one day at a time. Let God do the driving. You're in the driver's seat. You're in the passenger seat. Just let God lead you, guide you, and just enjoy the scenery and enjoy the awe of who God is. That's what God wants us to do. We're going to talk about this kind of stuff in the Bible study that I just had at Randolph for the hour. And it was very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And we were closing out Matthew 5, the verses 46 through 48, which is the last 3 verses of that chapter. And what Jesus was saying was how easy it is for you to do nice to those that do nice things to you.
Yeah.
But how do you treat people that mean you wrong, stab you behind your back and all of these things? He said, the reason why you do this, one, it builds your character.
Yeah.
It causes you to mature in me. and it causes you to learn how to be perfect, for I'm perfect. Boy, I'll tell you that Amplified version 8, that, man, I'm going to tell you, God just tore that thing up. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about, because we never understand when God say, be ye perfect, for I'm perfect. Well, God, I'm human. How do I do that? Nope, I'm so happy you asked. It's just this simple. And he put it right there. And that's what we was talking about today before we talked about preventive maintenance in marriage, which is I think the 12th chapter of the second book, because we're in that marriage stage. We're doing preventive maintenance. And then the next chapter will be, when can I get a divorce in the eyes of God? So we'll be going into that chapter.
But are all of them married, or?
The majority are or have been. And then we have a 21-year-old who has never been married, still live with her mom, and she's just soaking all this up. I mean, she's definitely just learning a lot. And the young man, like I said today, he's about, I would say, a little bit younger than me, barely. He might be in the same age. He's got a young daughter in college, her freshman year. And ironically, she was talking about her friends and all of these alternative lifestyles that go pretty much against what God teach and how to deal with that. So he had that question for me. And ironically, it's today that I come to find out from the dog, because one of the ladies that walk her dog, I just assumed she had a male as a husband. I met her wife today.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I didn't know, but she caught the dog and put the brakes to make sure they don't run out, thinking that I had guests that could have had dogs or whatever, until I explained everything as I shared with you earlier. So we just never know who live with us. We never know how to deal with that. And that was the question. How do I deal with my daughter with this? And then one of the other men at the 2:00 Bible study was dealing with the same thing with his daughter, which is of the same age, who has a girlfriend. And him being straight gospel, he's like, this is how it is. He's trying to explain it. And as I share with both of them, I said, listen, I can say things that you can't say because you're the parent. You can't say certain things that I can say. I say, so this is why all you want to do is plant the seed. Let God give the increase. So let me be the villain. I got a book. You just give them the book, let them read it. And then as they read it and read the scripture, what God say, they don't have nobody there with them but God. And God can give them increase to how he look at it, because the daughter, I don't think she was in a relationship, that the one that just joined today, Robert. It was more or less all of her colleagues in college. They have all these different lifestyles, from the whole health spectrum of where they fall into the LGBTQ. And she said, well, doesn't God love everybody? And the answer is yes.
He does.
He does. But that doesn't mean
we'll judge everybody.
He's going to judge everybody, but he don't condone sin in any of us. And we don't get to make the decision as to what sin he will condone or not, just because we feel so strongly about it. So it was very powerful today. I'm telling you, the way God keeps blessing me to meet different people with so many different things and how it all come together is just phenomenal. It really just amazes me.
Well, I mean, I would be interested to hear their overall what they were left with, what they were sent home chewing with, if you will, right? Like, because I mean that is a heavy question and a heavy burden to you, because it's not an overnight change that's going to happen, right? In the sense of like, tomorrow morning they're not going to wake up and their daughter is going to be like, oh yeah, it was just totally a phase. That was a yesterday phase.
Oh, without a doubt. And like I was sharing with them, sometimes you can literally be born with that desire in your heart, and you say, well, Lord, God made me like this. I was born like this. How is that possible if this is not how God wanted me to be? And then you have to go back and show them the generational curses, or how this can be passed down from generation to generation and stuff like that, because it's still all biblical. It ain't like God didn't warn us that this could happen. And then if you have people that have never experienced sex before as virgins, and your first experience is a man or another woman, your body is a sponge. That's what Jesus was referring to when he said to the Samaritan woman at the well, when he said, you rightfully answered me that you're not legally married, but you've been married 5 times, and the one in your bed right now isn't yours. Because whomever you have sex with, you're marrying. You're opening up a door where you're becoming one, even if it's the same sex or not. That's how addictions work. Because any type of addiction is nothing more than an influence or an impulse or a lust of your own flesh that you don't have control over no more. Started out that you were alcoholics. You don't just see a person go to class 6, pick a gallon of the 80 proof and just start guggling it for the first time. That's not how it works.
No, it's a slow.
You just, like you just said, every single thing with us is incremental, where when you open that door to let the devil in, you just crack it. I promise you, you'll crack it an inch, he's going to take a mile. And before you know it, you're under the influence of whatever the substance is or whatever the lust is. That's how these things work. And it's all sin in the eyes of God. But what make the others different and worse is the fact that God went farther to say it's an abomination.
Well, I also think that it's a, the talk of nature versus nurture. And I think some of those things, or a lot of these things, end up being nurtured, meaning they're taught. Now, a lot of us assume that our kids are being taught by everything that we do. However, we have so many distractions in this world. You can't forget the TV. On the TV, if you're watching this kids shows, they have an LGBT member within that TV show. They have these teenager shows. There's at least one gay cast member or whatever. It's where it's girl, boy. So I think a lot of it turns into the nurture thing, and then you can't forget the influence of their peers, especially if they're going to school, and all that. So I think a lot of
all of that plays a role.
To more, I lean more towards these things are more nurture rather than nature, and so.
Well, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. But here's where the rubber meets the road. This is why it's imperative that we go back to what God said. God said it's the parent's responsibility to teach His word from home, so that they know right from wrong. That we are like sheep led to the slaughter in the midst of wolves. We are sheep in the midst of wolves. So if me being an adult at 58 years old is considered a sheep amongst wolves, and I'm trying to fight these hammer knockers off me, you better believe they're looking for the kids too. So definitely. So if you're not praying with your kids, if you're not praying over your kids, if you're not teaching them the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and pouring in the world, this is why they're easily susceptible to fall into these traps or snares of the devil, because it only proves that they just don't have a solid foundation from which to stand on in the word of God, because God said Himself that if you raise them up, they will not part far from it. They got something, and I will call them back. God is the one that's going to call them back. God is the one. But if you don't instill in them who even God is, they don't even pray. They don't even have a relationship, because they did not witness a relationship in their parents about who God is and the importance of God. Then you can't say, you have no leg to stand on when they get into the world, and all those influencers that you just mentioned, what you say they're being nurtured or cultivated based on what their surroundings are. You're 100% right. So how do we combat that? We put on the whole armor. The same way you put your uniform on, we put on the word of God, and we teach them the word of God, but they got to see God in you to receive and believe it's possible. And this is why it's a hand-in-hand thing with the church and with the family at the house. That's why we talked about I put in this third book, The Final Frontier. Family is the final frontier.
Yeah.
Thinking about Spock. Dude, I put jokes and comic in everything I do. I can't help it. But it's the foundation that God wanted before the church came. Remember, before Jesus ever built His church, there was the family.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Well, and that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. I think the foundation is what is cracked in a lot of families. And it's crazy because, like, I won't say the foundation is broken. I'll just say it's cracked. And then if there's a crack in your foundation, he's speaking of your home, right? That whole house on top, at one point, it may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen the next week. It may not happen a week, 2 weeks, or 2 years from now. But at one point, that whole house is going to concave on itself because of that crack grew and grew and grew. And there was enough space for the devil to slip in and say, hey, I have found my way in and I'm here to stay. And I'm only going to expand and grow to the point where I can break you, or I can break this entire thing. You shatter your entire belief system that made you, that at one point you said, oh my gosh, I'm on fire for God. Then you go to college and you have these friends are telling you, well, God's not real. And this is why God's not real. And actually, if you read this, have you heard of the book of Enoch? Have you heard, look, this is what my friend who's Muslim, this is Allah. This is how they worship and they praise. Christians actually, and it's a whole thing out there where we have access to so much information that you're like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know if what my parents were teaching me. I was raised in a cult, essentially.
Data overload.
Yeah, exactly.
Data overload.
And it's so crazy. I used to get overwhelmed with all the information present to me because I was like, okay, I'm getting, I was kind of before 2022, before I really got back in my faith, but I was like, let me get back into this, look into certain things. And I was like, I have a lot of questions. Like I like, I want to know, like, like, are aliens real, right? Or like, is the Earth flat? Like, or like, and we're in I forgot what it's called, but sir, was this moon landing real? Like, can we really go to space? And with all these, like, I have all these questions, right? These cultural or these societal questions that the people have said existed or happened, and I'm like, okay, well then me reading the Bible, kind of sometimes it would be like, is that even real? But then I read the Bible now and I go, they had, I don't know how many times in the Old Testament they talk about the Leviathan, the sea monster. That's mentioned in the Bible. I'm like, okay, and so, like, for me, it started to kind of make sense. Like, and there was a part where I remember reading, I was like, that I think it basically said to not worry about the things that we don't need necessarily. We don't need the answer as humans. We don't need the answer for. And so now when people are asked, they're like, what about this? I'm like, what? Okay, if that is what's going to change your mind to believe in God, listen, you needed to know the earth is flat to believe in God. There are so many other miracles within that. Let's go with your conclusion. The earth is flat. Boom. You believe in God now? Well, okay. See, that's what I'm saying. You getting those answers, you just want those answers because of curiosity. You don't want those answers are not actually what's going to drive you. So why are getting those answers really important to you to the point where you say, oh, I'm going to believe in God. If I can see the earth is flat, I'll believe in God.
But you got to think about it. That's chasing fool's gold, because even the disciples, not just the disciples, but all of the Pharisees and the scribes who asked for a sign, Jesus did signs. All the miracles. How in the world do you feed 4,000 to 5,000 people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of doggone bread?
I don't know if y'all ever seen 2 fish in like
it wasn't even the big long sword fish. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, little small little fish that God just blessed. Or the woman with the oil. She had enough oil to make enough bread. She said, we just going to eat this and die. And the man of God said, look, fix it for me, and then fill your buckets. And they filled with all this oil out of that little bit.
Yeah.
So, or Jesus turning water into wine, all the gallons of wine, and it was the good stuff. It wasn't that watered down version, that Beaujolais. It was the good stuff. So God did miracles. I mean, how do you part a Red Sea and you walk on dry land? I mean, come on,
here's the thing, right? When you read that, we've read fairy tales before. We've read fiction books before. And people read that and say, I've read fiction books. What makes the Bible more believable or more real than me reading Narnia or than me reading Harry Potter?
Oh, no, I get it. So when someone come at me like that, the first thing I would say is, so you want to see if God is real? Then I tell them to pray to God, trying to prove itself. Just see what God do. And the reason why I say this, because if God literally showed up, it would scare hell literally right out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the power of God. Listen, some things you cannot explain. This is why you come out better. Instead of going the fictional way or the science and the big boom theory, as opposed to the Spirit of God and the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, we say in evangelism, tell your story, because your story is more believable. What has God done for you? How has he blessed you that you believe and you'll follow him to the ends of the earth? So when you talk about yourself, there's certain things, there's no other way or no way I can explain it except God. So when I start talking like that and the hair starts standing up on my head, usually the person that I'm speaking to, they're in awe as well, because now they see there's no way he can be this passionate and can be this real without God. Just stand and see, because he is there, God is already with us, because we're 2 or more gathered and we're talking about the name of Jesus. He gonna show up, and when God show up, he changed things.
Yeah, I was telling individuals today, and I appreciate, she was one of the senior NCOs, and we were walking because we were on profile, but we were walking anyway as a group, and we were talking, and she kind of just casually dropped out. When she first got here, she was looking for an AA meeting, and she put in the wrong street. She put in street rather than road, and you put that wrong in there. She's like, I pulled into an empty parking lot to go to an AA meeting. She goes, now, sometimes that's what happens. This is where they are. But she goes, I for sure was like, I don't think I'm in the right spot, right? And so casually, we kind of started talking about it more. And he said the loud part, the quiet part out loud, right? And I told her, because I didn't want her to make her feel alone. Like, hey, you kind of opened up, with telling people that, and you didn't have to. But I was like, I'm there with you. I get that. I said, I get the alcoholism. I said, I myself was there. And when I tell people how much I used to drink, I know people think I'm lying. They really think they're like, oh man, I was like, no. You can ask my wife. Like, I was like, Jim Beam was my drink because it was cheap. I used to get Jameson, but Jameson got a little too expensive for my blood. So I was like, I'm going to get Jim Beam. And I'm talking just the regular size bottle of Jim Beam, right? And I was like, I'll get 2. One for Friday night, one for Saturday night. And I was like, and then I piss out. And then, I was like, that's one of the best things that happened, because if that didn't happen, if God didn't say, hey, you're going somewhere where it's going to be hard for you to come back from, I got you. If he didn't do that, I'm telling y'all right now, this is when you would, the Queon, this you want to see this Queon. I don't know where I'd be. And it was scary when I finally got on the other side of it. I was like, I was drinking way too much. So then I was like, but I'm cool, whatever, I'm good. And then I hear from other friends, and they tell me what they were doing, hey, this is kind of what led me to, I was a little alcoholic. And they're like, yeah, I was just drinking some of this with some mixing some stuff, and it just kind of too many times too often. And I was like, I was down bad, and I didn't even know it. Like I was like, guys, I don't mix anything. I was drinking neat, whole bottle to myself, like neat. And I was like, so anyway, I don't say that to brag about being my ability to consume alcohol by any means. I say that because it's what you said. It's like, our testimony is so important, how empowering it is, because it's like, I didn't do this by myself. It was all God's work. And it was something I didn't realize until later on after the fact. I was like, man, that was God's work. If I would have known it, if I would have actually been focused on it, I'd be like, I wouldn't have got through it.
Well, that's one of the things that God do, and it's what God expect us to remember. The problem with a lot of Christians that have a testimony is that they forget what God did for them. So as soon as the fires start burning in a way that is burning down acres upon acres, and they can't see how to put it out, they forget that God brought them over one Jordan. And he said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. So remember, everything starts to fall into place as to how much faith do you actually have? Do you actually believe that God is capable of keeping you, sustaining you, and protecting you, and providing for you? Or you don't? Because when we get over anxious, when we start worrying, it's usually because it's a lack in our faith bucket. And with faith, go your trust. No faith, no trust in God that he's going to do it. So what you do, you panic. The sky is falling. I just got hit with a cloud. Okay. So that's not what God wants for us, because he wants us to always keep the faith.
Yeah.
You keep the faith, you believe, you persevere. It builds your character. It builds your relationship with God and helps you to mature in God so that you can better tell people. And then one thing, as we said before in this circle, you don't entertain all questions. It's not advantageous. It's just a waste of your time. And I'm going to tell you what happened is, I'll tell you, if I stick around and people asking me dumb behind questions, I get mad. It really gets on my nerves. And I'm starting to get ticked off, and I'm like, Lord, this ain't working for me, because this joker getting on my last move. I'm starting to feel like Moses before he struck the rock. And I'm like, Lord, I ain't trying to get in trouble with you, because you say it's okay to get angry. So I learned, if I can tell now, God has blessed me to get to a point that when I'm having a discussion with someone, I can tell if they're receiving what I'm saying, or if it's just going in one and out the other, and they just really want to belabor the point or just continue to go back and forth. And it's a sin to debate the Bible. It's a sin to get into any kind of argument or heated conversation, however you want to word it, because we got some fancy ways to do it when we don't want to say we sin it. However you do it. If you're starting to get emotionally charged, it's best to walk away, leave that person to somebody else. It's, God, this is not one for me. Because remember, it's funny, you just had a conversation with someone because once again, God put that person in your path, and you don't look at it this way, but when you talk to me, I'm listening and I'm paying attention, but yet here's somebody with the same background as you, where you can encourage them because you've been there. It's ironic how that happened.
Yeah.
So I remember everything you tell me. I remember, and the Holy Ghost bring it back to my remembrance, because now you're seeing where God is using you to help other people. When we get to a point where we're no longer on milk and we're starting to walk and we're starting to get some understanding, we're starting to get that foundation of the Holy Spirit and the knowledge of God, he began to put people in your place that's not where you are, that you can reach down and pull up and help. That's how God works.
I got a compliment the other day.
No.
And I know, I'm not one for compliments. I don't know why. It is what it is. But I got multiple compliments. My mom said I was a good person, and I didn't know how to respond to that, right? I love my mom. Thanks, Mom. She was like, you're a good person. She was crying, and I was like, okay. That was one of the compliments. But the other compliment was I was talking to one of these guys, and he was going through some things himself. But him and his wife they're in the same unit, just different companies. But I work with her husband because I worked with her previously, and so I'm like, we're really cool, chit-chatting him up. And he was like, hey man, what do you got going on for Christmas? I was like, you already know I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I got this for some time. He goes, oh, man, I forgot. He goes, you know what it is? You don't walk like a man who's defeated. He goes, that's what trips me out. So every time you tell me, he goes, I forget, because you're not defeated when I see you. He goes, you just look like a normal, happy go lucky person. I was like, damn, appreciate that, man. I didn't know that. It didn't. Some days it doesn't feel that way, but I was like, damn, I appreciate that. Again, I didn't know how to respond, but I was like, all right, take it.
But I would go back to what I tell people all the time. You're being watched.
Yeah.
You never know how much you're being watched until people let you know you're being watched. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know you was paying attention. You know? So that's why it's important that we reflect the light of God in our lives at all times, because we're being watched. And when people can see, your testimony is what you're showing. It's what you push out when you go through adversity, that when God get the most glory. God don't get the most glory when we're doing things within our own strength. People expect you're in the Army, you make decent money, that's expected. But when you start going through stuff in the Army and you start dealing with stuff and they don't see your countenance change any, and you're being able to hold that up and still give God praise, now God is starting to get the glory. God is starting to say, okay, you're starting to mature. You're starting to get it. So since you're starting to get, let me do this for you. You didn't even see it coming, where God just blessed you. People don't understand how to get blessings from God. It blows my mind of the things that we're not teaching, so you don't understand how this works, because it would be more soldiers in the army of the Lord doing things and fighting through battles when they know God got the reward on the other end. When we put a smile on God's face, it goes back to what I tell you about your kids. When you know you can leave this here without her coming in here and touching the knobs and stuff, now you say, okay, she's starting to mature. She's starting to you pay attention to this stuff. God do likewise. And trying to get people to understand what we're not teaching and why people are so easily subject to fall to frustration, to things they can't fix, is because they don't know how to cope with it, because we don't teach enough of that. And I'm glad to see that you are definitely on the right track. And I would say that would caveat or lead us right into today's message.
Look, I know we were talking, y'all, but this is the best part about what we do when we do the Bible studies, is the fact that the conversation is good and we can talk about anything. I mean, between me and MB,
nothing is off the table.
Nothing is off the table. Look, we went through several different conversations, but today's conversation, I think, it's important, right? Because, Christmas is coming up, and, as believers, there's a reason why we celebrate Christmas. And don't get me wrong, if you have kids, if you have a family, like, I get it, right? Like, for them, it's about Santa and the presents and whatnot. And that's what they think of. That's their priority. However, you need to reinforce, I think it's imperative that you reinforce why we really celebrate Christmas, and that's the birth of Jesus. And so many people will overlook it, and they'll be like, well, my kids are too young. They don't really need to know it. But I can tell y'all right now, my daughter, my oldest, she knows that Jesus died. She has her Bible, and she's like, oh yeah, that's Jesus on the cross there. But then she also can flip 2 or 3 pages in her kid's Bible over and say that's also Jesus when he's going up to heaven and to be seated at the right hand of the Father. So I'm telling you, like, kids are very smart, but also you need to teach them these things as a young age, because again, like we just got done talking about, that foundation. If that foundation is weak or it's brittle, or if there's some cracks in it, listen, I'm telling you, when you go put your kids, or when your kids are ready to go out into this world, this world will eat them up. They will eat them up and will have no care. If you're an adult, you can attest this for yourself. You can tell you, man, I was been punched in the mouth by the world before. So anyway, I went on get on a tangent again. But that being said, we are going to talk about the birth of Jesus, and I think it's an amazing story, because I was thinking about this question all day. I was thinking about it, and I'm going to ask you, because, like, I know for some this might be a burning question, especially if you're not a believer, or if you're new to the faith, you're getting back into your faith, and you're just like, I just don't understand this thing, right? And that is, I'm a married man, and I have kids, and if my wife came home one day and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and I'm like, we've not. This hasn't happened. What do you mean? Well, don't worry about it. Look, the Lord's got us. An angel appeared to me. Huh? Yeah. Tell me more. Tell me more. Right? Look, I'd have a lot of burning, searing questions in my mind to think like, yeah, I'm hard to believe.
Well, that was Joseph's first response. That's why the Bible says he was going
Yeah.
to put her away privately because he wasn't buying that shenanigans. He was like, look, I don't even want to hear that. I don't know what happened between before and now, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
That much I know for a fact. So, because I know your family, your folks, we're going to do this on the down low. We're going to keep it to ourselves, but I'm going to put you away. And it took God to send an angel to talk to him. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's what made the difference. Because had the angel not done that, Joseph would have done what a natural man would have done. He's like, wait a minute, how do you explain this? Who is he? That's the first thing you're going to ask. Who is that hammer knocking that locked you up? Because it wasn't me. That's the first thing.
And then the audacity to come back to me.
But here's on the flip side of that. I'm glad you said that, because look at what it signifies or what it shows. If she had something to hide, why would she come back to you?
Okay, now we're really getting to church.
You see what I'm saying? So because she was so innocent, she was a virgin. You knew this.
Yeah.
So if I ain't got nothing to hide, I'm coming back to you and let you know this is the truth.
You know what? I don't think I guess a question is like, how do you think she felt? Right, like to process that, like, joyful, right? Obviously, did she, how do you think internally it was like, what?
Listen, at her young age, I believe it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because you still got to look at the gossip that was going to go around. People are people.
Yeah.
It don't even matter. They're like, wait a minute, they ain't even married yet, so I could do 9 months. 9 months is 9 months, even in the Bible days. So this day ain't no change with 9 months. The baby is coming, and they ain't married yet, so something got to get. So she had to deal with all of that at such a young age. And we know how the devil is. And a lot of people just evil, But when we work for God, this is what we can expect. Every single thing that Jesus went through, he went through dealing with the devil, doing God's will.
Yeah.
He dealt with twofold. He dealt with the devil, and he dealt with the wrath of God.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. It's crazy. He dealt with both because he had to satisfy the wrath of God to atone us back to Christ. So God poured out his wrath. Jesus went through. Part of that was God, and part of that was the devil trying to get in his way. That is phenomenal. So when we look at those that step up for Jesus, like Mary, and Joseph, they had to run for their life because, the doggone Herod was trying to kill Jesus. So he killed every baby. I'm like, what's with this mass murder of babies up in here? You talking Bible, these jokers, they believe in taking out.
I'm sorry. I'm just not funny, but like, 100%, I'll read and I'll be like, more? Gosh, dang, man.
It's the same thing with doggone Israelites when they was in Egypt, that the Pharaoh wanted to kill every doggone child, and God flipped it on them and killed every last one of their firstborn. So I'm like, it mass murdered all these babies. I'm like, this devil ain't playing. He wanted to make sure he stay king forever.
Yeah.
He ain't like the fact that Jesus was coming. But, when we look at that, is it any different now? We have God in us, and the devil don't want us to have that. So he's still coming at us just as hard. But when you look at the Christmas aspect of it, as you mentioned, I looked at it from a whole different perspective. I looked at it from the standpoint of the controversy within the church as a Christian celebrating Christmas because they say that it's evil and we're serving the devil.
Okay.
Because it originated from then. So I did my research from that angle.
Well, I want to talk about it because the simple, let me put it this way. Most people know by this point, right? Like who Jesus with, Virgin Mary, how it happened. Like it kind of like the crucifixion story in the Bible, right? A lot of people have heard it, right? But like to understand it is a whole other aspect of it. And I think that's important, especially the research that you've done is and the approach you took, because so many people have heard it, but it's better to understand as Christians and believers, especially, can I celebrate Christmas? Does this mean I'm going to hell? Is this a pagan holiday that I'm actually worshiping? Does me putting what are these ornaments on my tree represent actually this giving of the sun god. I think forgot what it was referring to, but the whole tree. There was a whole pagan holiday referencing the tree during this time year period during Christmas or whatever. What people were saying last year, especially a whole lot of things.
Well, it's been going on, and that's why I wanted to talk about it so I can add some clarity to it, so we can put it in proper context. So you'll see that there is a direct night and day difference from a Christmas tree that we decorate and what Jeremiah was talking about from the pagan aspect of trees and how they was worshipped. So yeah, when I tell you I do deep, I'm get into this stuff because I really love this stuff. So when I ask Google, I know, yeah, come here, Google. I say, why do some Christians not do Christmas? And this was what I found, because I don't talk like that, but I'm reading what somebody else, how they worded it. So I wanted to word it the same way because I'm writing what they wrote. So here's what they said. It was difficult for many people to separate the pagan symbols, rituals, and customs associated with Christmas for their original meaning and purpose. In fact, many early Christian groups banned the celebration of Christmas because of its direct ties to paganism, which in turn used by the 4th century by early Christians for people in the Roman Empire who practiced polytheism or ethnic religions other than Judaism. So Jewish religions. So back then, Judaism was referred to as what the Jews practiced with, Moore's laws and all that stuff. So anything other than that from the Romans was considered paganism. So let me tell you what Jeremiah said. Jeremiah 10:3-4, Amplified. It says, "For the customs and decrees of the people are mere delusions, exercises in futility. It is only wood, which one cut from the forest to make a god, the work of the hands or the craftsman with an axe or cutlery tool. They adorn the idol with silver and with gold. They fasten it with hammers and nails so that it will not fall apart." So the difference here, they made an idol for worship. They worshiped this. They put gold and silver on it, and they bowed down to it and worshiped it as a god. It's not what we're doing today when we take a Christmas tree, put some ornaments on it, and put the gifts under the tree that represent for some, it represents the wise men that brought gifts to baby Jesus. And a lot of times you'll see the nativity scene in front of people's houses of the baby in the manger and the lamb and the 3 wise men bearing gifts. That's known as the nativity scene. And then you got to remember, when I was a kid growing up, you heard of Christmas Past with old Scrooge, how he had 3 different dreams and they were all showing how bad he was. And he changed in the end his heart, somewhat like the Grinch who stole Christmas. So the holiday in and of itself represents the birth of Christ and the giving of gifts to those that are less fortunate. That's what Christmas in America has always been about. It is somewhat frustrating and misleading for people to take what Jeremiah was talking about when they put this gold and stuff and they cut a face or some kind of form of animal head in wood and bowed down and worshiped it. I ain't seen nobody bow down to a Christmas tree yet in my time. And I think it's misleading to tell people that you're going to hell because you are worshiping a pagan god holiday when God says, I judge your heart. And the majority of people that I've met every Christmas, their heart is for helping somebody else, like God say, and giving God's honor through Jesus Christ's birth. That's what Christmas is about for America for this particular holiday. That's what it's been taught. Even from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, all these things that celebrate this simple festival holiday, it should not be taken for bad unless you do like he said. You don't do like he said in regards to ensuring that you go ahead and teach about the burial of Jesus Christ, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the birth of Christ, and all you teach is Christmas. This is when it becomes a sin. When only thing you teach your kids is Christmas is about presents, decorations, and opening up the good times and leaving cookies and milk for Santa, and you don't teach them about the birth of Christ and the significance of that promise, because that's the best present God ever gave us, his son. That is what Christmas is about. So as long as you teach about who Jesus is, God is not frowning on you for letting your kids wake up early in the morning, opening up some presents and riding in and enjoying a little celebration.
But I think for some people it's more of, Christmas in itself is not a pagan holiday, but some of the things, the traditions that we do, we utilize, we follow, can be as originally pagan, right? Such as describing of the tree. Again, I've never seen anybody bow down before a tree. I'm just going to say it. If you do, I think that's weird. That being said, the aspect of getting the tree and then putting, the gold, if you will, or even the silver ornaments on there, is that within itself a form of following pagan traditions?
I would say that if you did it in order to follow that pagan tradition, intentional for the pagan tradition, because let's be honest, kids of today don't know nothing about no darn pagan tradition. They were never taught a pagan tradition. It's an American tradition. They're Americans. We have certain holidays. We celebrate the 4th of July. Is that pagan?
Yeah.
We blowing up stuff. Look, what I'm saying is, This is how absurd it gets. I can play that game if we want to go there.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, how does God don't play games? God said, I judge your heart. And the majority of people wasn't in those days. I mean, I can say that anybody that was born under the rebel flag and celebrated the rebel flag for all the things that the rebel flag stood for all those patriots back in those days, a lot of them died off. A lot of the young, my grandpa had the flag, so I just carried it. It's a family tradition. They don't even know the history. So what I'm saying is, God look at where you are today. What does that tree mean to you? Do it mean, because remember, the Bible referred to, it's also, the cross is referred to as a tree in the Bible.
Yeah.
So is that pagan? The cross that Jesus hung on? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, proper context is very important when we're talking about the difference between history and what took place decades before you were born, centuries before you were born, and today. You were born into America today in the 21st century. You're learning all of our American traditions as part of being an American, as far as it goes, to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that for a pastor to sit here and want to make history out to today and hold everybody accountable today of the sins of yesterday is wrong. Especially because you can't tell me what's in my heart. Only God knows what's in my heart. And I don't give two shakes about that tree. I put one up. I take a matter of fact, you come over my house when I get remarried, I'll doggone put so many lights up, I'll blow the transistor. I don't give two shakes. Dog, they'll be able to see my house from the moon. I don't care.
Well, I all the lights, I'm like, man, it's great when you put them up and then you got to.
You get the year-round lights.
But no, I like what you said, and I think that's what's important, what you said, and an answer to my question, and I think a lot of people's questions, if they have those questions, but it boils down to intention, right?
Yes, everything.
And so many things when it comes to I can't celebrate this because it's this. I can't celebrate this. Again, we talked about this, we're talking about Halloween. It goes down to your intention. Is your intention to dress up in order to in this evil character, to worship the devil and all that? Then if that's your intention, then hey, in that case, you're going to get what's coming to you in that regards. But if your intention is, hey, it's fun to have the kids dress up as princesses or even soldiers or Ninja Turtles and go get candy.
Oh, Batman. I mean, I like Batman. I like the cape, and I throw a boomerang and hit somebody upside the head with it. I like Batman, because I like the.
My favorite superhero is Batman, and my daughter knows this, and she's I have a Batman beanie. And I was like, hey, sweetie, go get me my beanie. And she brought me my Batman one. And I'm like, I haven't worn this thing in a long time. So I was like, thanks. But, it's pretty cool. But like you said, I like it. It boils down to intention. And when we celebrate Christmas, especially in my family, what we do is we wake up. The kids are way too excited for me to stop them from opening presents and saying, let me read you Bible first. Right. So right. I'm going to give it to them. Like when they get older now, you can wait. You could definitely wait.
Oh, yeah.
Get you, I don't know how old they're going to be. I imagine they're going to follow suit and start drinking coffee like me and my wife do at one point. Hopefully not too soon. But nonetheless, get your coffee. Let's get into the word. Let's read the story of Jesus, or Jesus' birth. All right. Let's talk about it. And then we get into the presents, understand why we're doing what we're doing. But again, it's like you said, like our intention here is to first represent Jesus, say, hey, this is why we celebrate Christmas. Christmas can be fun and is fun when you have all these other things with it. But never forget why we do it in the first place.
And I would add to that, Christmas is not about the gift in and of itself, because you don't want to be made to feel as your kids get older, they want more expensive gifts. So if you don't allow them to understand your budget, that look, we're not rich. I can get you some things. I can't get you all that stuff. So I need you to narrow it down. And then maybe throughout the year, we may be in a place, because it's a sin to go in debt for Christmas and take 6 months to a year to pay it back down. Because God say, oh no, man, because you're too afraid, or you didn't train your kids up the right way to understand that you can't afford everything you want. You have to have some discipline, because if you don't teach them that, they'll get out in the world and go and buy a $50,000 truck on McDonald's money, because they don't know any better. They just know what they want. This happens all the time in America, because we don't teach them that, hey, mom and dad doing the best they can. We're on a budget, but we're going to get you some of the things you like. Some of the things going to just have to wait. You might not get it this year. It just depends. But as we get more money, we do a little bit better with our finances. They need to understand that as soon as they're old enough to understand it. Because what will happen is, when they understand, they won't ask you for no crazy stuff, because they say, you know what, mom and dad, I see them working all the time. They're busting their behind to keep food on the table. We get some of the things we want. I get one pair of Nikes. I might not have 5 pair, but at least I got one pair, and I'm going to save them. I don't want to tear them up. I don't want to scuff them up. They start to take care of what they have, and they learn discipline like that. All of this is designed by God, because you're instilling in them that you don't want to live like the Joneses. You don't want to covet what the Joneses have. That God will bless you. Each increment goes higher and higher. You'll make more and more. So as you make more, you can do better for yourself. But you don't want to get out there and flaunt it and be prideful. These are the things you're instilling in them, even about Christmas, because that's where it all starts for the kids. So Christmas obviously encompasses a lot of different things, a lot of different angles that you can teach. That's a good lesson for them to learn, because what you teach them, they're going to pour into their kids. God's will.
Well, and it's amazing, because like tradition of reading the word, right, was my wife's tradition, like her family tradition. Like, and so like, I remember the first Christmas that I spent with them. And what year was that? I think the first real Christmas I spent with them was in 2015. Yeah, well, I think it was 2015. We went to a place called Telluride, Colorado. Really nice place. Woke up, did Christmas, and we're at this little resort thing, whatever, and come downstairs, and I don't have any kids. No one had any kids at the time. It was just we were the kids essentially, right? So come downstairs, and I'm ready to be like, all right, let's see what we got here, and they all already, like, they already know what's about to happen. Like, my father-in-law has his page marked, ready to go, and they get their drinks, and they sit down on the couch, and no one's moving. I'm over here just like, oh, is that mine? And I look over them, and I look at my wife. I was like, what are y'all doing? And she's like, well, we got to wait because my dad's going to read. And then she goes, well, he's going to pick someone else to read. And then we're going to talk about it. Because now now that, we're older kids essentially. It's like, he's going to pick someone to read, and then we're going to talk about it. And I was like, okay, yep, not used to that, but all right, let's go for it. Let's do this thing. And so we did it, and truthfully, in the back of my mind, he didn't make me read that year. 2 years later, I read for the first time for the family Christmas. But still, it was in my head where I was like, I like this tradition. I don't know why I've never done it before, but I like this, and so now we do it in my house.
Well, I think traditions are passed down from generation to generation, and I think that is a wonderful practice. Not too many families that I'm aware of even do that. I think that is the best way to go, like you say, once you reach a certain age. But early on, most kids don't even go to sleep. I give you one of the guys that I've talked to at the gym, Eric. He says he has a young daughter. I think she's like 5. She baked cookies and put milk out for Santa. And he said him and the wife, they put the presents out. He ate the cookies and dropped the milk. She came downstairs. My gosh, he came. I mean, she was told, and he said he was surprised because none of his other kids did that.
Yeah.
But she's so gone with Santa Claus. I don't even know if she even started opening presents. She was so excited and overwhelmed at her cookies. But I said, I said, did any of the others bake cookies specifically for Santa? He said, no. I said, that's because she had skin in the game.
Yeah.
That was her only way of knowing whether Santa Claus was real or not in her little mind. So he ate the cookies and drank the milk, and she was just, oh my Lord. She was so overwhelmed with that. He said he came running downstairs thinking something. What the heck, man? What's going on? And she was so animated and just overjoyed with that, that he ate her cookies and drank her milk. So that was such a precious moment. And I just smiled when he told me the story at the gym today. And I said, wow, that's awesome.
You know, it's funny. I don't like milk. Like, milk does not sit well in my stomach. So, like, every year, sorry, Neve, if, you're older, you're listening to this. Yeah, I don't like milk. So, like, I look at my wife, I'm like, hey, so you got to drink that. I'm not, because I was like, I'll eat the cookie, but like, I'm not drinking that. And I was like, and we usually leave my wife gets like one of the actual carrots, like it looked like it was pulled straight from the ground for like the reindeer or whatever. And I'll eat some carrot, but I'm not drinking that. I was like, if you're not gonna drink it, we gonna be wasting some milk. So, like, it won't stay down. It won't stay down. It never fails. But we still make it happen. I think that's amazing though. I hear stories like that, and it gives me a little, some feels, some feels in the stomach where I'm like, man, that's when you know you're doing it. You're doing, especially the dad thing or even the parenting thing, is when your kids get excited about something and they want to share that with you. Like, came screaming, like, that's exciting. I really love that.
Well, I think it's also the relationship that you build with people, that he was able to share that precious moment with me. So, like I said, that's why it's so important that we let our light shine. When we let our light shine, literally, you can see God draw people to you because of him. Christmas is meant to be enjoyed. I pray blessings on everybody to have a wonderful Merry Christmas and to love on your families. Teach them what Christmas is all about, starting with the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And just be safe and just love on your family. It's a time for coming together, but don't make it all about the presents.
Yeah.
You teach your kids and just pour into them. And I promise you should have a blessed Christmas and just a happy New Year. Make your New Year's resolutions and try to stick with them this time. Hopefully you make it past at least March.
I don't, because I think most resolutions, I think that it's a day in February. I think it's February like 6th or 12th or something. It's called, is it like National Quitting Day or something? Yeah, it's a day where they said, hey, by this point, 90% of the people have either failed or given up on their New Year's resolutions. And I was like, dang, that's kind of unfortunate, But
well, I'll tell you this, as a Christian, you set your goals, what you want to happen in this upcoming year. Then you pray over your goals and you ask God, if it be your will, help me to bring this to fruition. So that way you're not doing it on your own strength. That's why that number is so high. A lot of times, people go to the gym. You can't even hardly get a parking spot. Dog on January, everybody in the gym. Everybody, I'm going to do this, and they start out like a quarter horse. February, March time frame, the gym start thinning out back to the regulars that are actually serious about doing it, that have that sticking power. So you have to pray about these things. Listen, when we say that you can literally put God in everything, you can. In whatever your goal is, if it's gym and you want to work out and you want to get more healthy, you want to eat better and all of that, ask God to help you. I promise you he will. I don't know what it is about God and church. It's like it's only certain things we want to put God in because it's got to be Sunday-like stuff. Like there's a special day and a special way and a special thing that we can only ask, a special way to present it, a special way to talk to God. No. The same way we talking now, the same way you hear my voice, believe me, God get plenty of my voice. I talk to him all the time, just like this. I don't have no special way. I roll up on Jesus like 5, and I'll be like, Lord, I need help. I need help up in here. But God, because God, he the one made me, so he already know I'm crazy,
Listen, hey, I just want to let you know, you heard him say it. He said he's crazy. I didn't have to say the words.
Meaning I have a sense of humor. Not crazy like,
now we changing it.
Now we giving some context. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying, But God is a fun God. He made all of us, and all of us know we can be comical at times. God made us this way because I believe God be up there laughing at some of us. Trust me.
I think it was God's way of being funny when Jonah was in the whale. It like his own, when you've ever met that person who's like overly sarcastic and they're how they're funny is through sarcasm. himself. And so, like, I think that was God's way of being like, hey, man, look, look, you ain't gonna die. However, you know, it's gonna be really funny. You're gonna be in a fish. And I want you to, and it's gonna work out. I promise. You're gonna be just fine. But I think it was a little. Look, I do think it, because there are many ways in which you can teach a person a lesson. But to put them in a look.
Well, it goes deeper, because as Jonah was in the fish belly for 3 days, Jesus was in the ground for 3 days.
So absolutely,
symbolic. And it was deeper. When God do stuff, it's so deep, we miss most of it. It's until we study and study, and then God open us up to a mystery that we may miss, so that we can get the full measure of why he did something or when he did something. So, yeah, I think there's other ways for God to make a joke than have a man swallowed by a fish.
Oh, I mean, I don't think he was sitting up there like, hey, come look at this, y'all. Watch this. Like this. Like watching YouTube. He's like, hey, y'all, come here real quick. Watch this video real quick. Look, that's Jonah. Yeah, look at him screaming on the boat. Throw him off. You won't.
Man, I'm telling you. But you know what? It's funny. Jonah knew what time it was.
Yeah.
He said, look, y'all, I don't want y'all to go down. Just throw me overboard. I don't want y'all to go down with me.
I was reading it the other day, and that sounded really interesting, right? As the storm was going crazy, right? And Jonah's the only one still asleep. And I read that, and I go, there's a lot of things here. First and foremost, if y'all ever been in a storm, like a real storm, especially if you're on a boat or something, you're going to wake up, right? And especially back in those times, those boats weren't like metal. Like those were some wooden boats they got going on. So like that, when I read that, I was like, oh, Jonah knows who his God is. Jonah knows who his God. Jonah's like, I got faith. I got it. Look, that's all him out there. I'm good. I can go to sleep. I read that. I was like,
I think it came upon them. I don't think it was stormy at the time that
it
came upon them. So he was asleep while it came upon them.
Yeah.
In the belly. He was already knocked out, which reminded me of Jesus being knocked out when they were likewise in the same boat. They came down and said, hey, Jesus, wake up. We're going to drown. Jesus said, oh, you a little face. He rebuked the wind and all, in the water calm and all that. So it was similar to that particular episode. To me, I looked at, like I said, when I look at it almost like in 3D. And that's looking at every possible angle, because the similarity between Jesus going down 3 times and being dead for 3 days and rose on the 3rd day, him in the belly of the fish for 3 days and came back up. And then you look at both of them fell asleep when the storm is going on the boat. All of this, I don't find any of it to be coincidental. So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, they was like, wait a minute, who is still on the ship? Somebody's God is mad. They didn't know. They were like, somebody done ticked off their God. Let me find, who else is, we got somebody to get him.
Yeah.
Let's find out hey dude, who is your God? What's going on? Because they were they're making the ship light. They taking stuff, throwing it overboard. There's nothing they were going to drown if they didn't get this joke off the ship.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got him involved, he was like, listen, it's me.
I'm running away from
my
God.
bad.
Because he told me, he's like, hey, they were like, I remember telling him that you were running away from your God. And like, first and foremost, some honest people back then. I was like, hey, why are you getting on the boat? I'm running away from God, man.
That should have been a red flag. Like, buddy, you ain't getting off. First of all, who is your God? What did you say? You believe? Look, hey, he didn't go to customs. He didn't go to customs.
Yeah, I don't think you can get on this flight, sir. You don't have to catch the next one. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you catch the next ship coming out. We want to live. We ain't got time for that God of Israel. We know about him.
Yeah, but it was amazing because I'm reading it get to the end or towards the end, and it was one of my favorite parts of Jonah. Reading the story about Jonah was when Jonah, he's throwing a temper tantrum basically. He's like, God, I knew if you sending me out here, that you being merciful and a loving God and forgiving God, you were going to forgive him. Wait, so Jonah, from the beginning, you saying, hey, you already knew, like,
no, of course.
God, look, you're sending me out there. I really don't think you need me to do all that. And your answer, again, just think about this. His answer was to run away, y'all. And then went to run away and got swallowed fish. He's like, fine, I'll go out there. And look, but don't change your mind now. Don't change your mind.
Hey. But his point was the reason why he didn't go, because he figured if he didn't go, God would go ahead and destroy him because he was still angry with him.
Yeah.
Because of sin. Yeah. So he figured if I just avoid going, God will go ahead and do what I think should be done anyway. Notice this is what he thought. They need to be destroyed for all the evil they did against my God. Like he God.
Yeah.
Like he get to make the decisions. Like he's sitting on the top throne seat. You know what I mean? So he's like, look, I'll just run the other way. I ain't going to obey God when God say, go. Yeah, you weren't talking to me, was you, God? You ain't really mean for me to go. I'm not going to go. I'm going to do my own thing. And God said, wait a minute, buddy. Who are you? You're not going to do, it's almost like when you said, wait a minute, did you slam my door?
Yeah.
You ain't going to do what? In my house. And you the child, and I'm not, you grown? That's, because kids will really wait till they get about 15.
Look,
they start smelling themselves. They start thinking they're grown and can tell you where to go and what they want to eat and what you ain't going to do. And listen, that only happens if you don't break them when they're young.
Yeah.
If you break them when they're young, they will never do it. Hear me and hear me well. I don't care. They may try you one time to say, well, my friend's at her house, this ain't your friend's house. And if your friend come over here, she getting the same thing. You better tell her.
All of my friends, it didn't, we went over the house, and like you said, it was once where I was like, I thought we pressed buttons, and I was like, well, those are your parents. And I learned very quickly, no. It was, hey, so you're in my house, and these are the rules, and all of you are going to follow them. And next thing you know, I found myself doing some chores as punishment for breaking the rules. And, I never broke the rules again because I don't like going to my friend's house doing chores. And so, we learned, so we all knew whoever houses and we all knew who had the stricter parents, but which were mine. And so it was like, hey, we can go over my house. And are your parents home? Now they're not gonna be for a while. All right, man. Look, I'm not doing all that stuff around the house that your dad wants us to do now because they already knew. They come over. Hey, boys, can you help me real quick?
It's free labor.
Yeah, it turns into I didn't come over here for this. This is not how I envisioned my Saturday being. I left my house so I didn't have to do stuff like this, but it's cool. I'll do it. But yeah, no, listen, the story of Jonah is amazing. And I love it, right? Because it shows you a lot, right? But even again, I know we weren't the main purpose of this was not Jonah, but still it's how it shows you how everything's connected and how you when you really read, like you were saying, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you start flipping back over here, didn't this? Okay, yeah. And then you're like, man.
But it also shows us that Jonah was just like us. He's just a regular man. And sometimes we get upset with God. We want to do our own thing. And then God, just being God, he tolerate us, but then he's going to act, and don't be surprised if he tear your behind out the frame.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no matter what happened to Jonah? He went and did what God told him to do to begin with.
Yeah.
So it don't even matter. God will be done. And you either can go peacefully and go in obedience, or you can go after he thump you upside the head. Either way you're going. I mean, because this is God we're talking about. And listen, when I love about the long suffering of God, that just simply means he tolerates us. Moses, for instance, when he was saying, well, God, I don't talk good. I really don't need to go back to these people. I killed one of them. Like, God, the history. Come on. Do you really need me to go? Why not somebody else? God, on it. And God just, okay.
Are you done?
Yeah, basically, are you done? Now, here's what's going to happen. And that's it. Now move out and execute. Take Aaron with you and go take care of business like I told you. That's the way it is. I think the sooner we understand that, the sooner the kids understand that with parents, that you're the child, I'm the parent. I'm not going to be repeating myself too many times. If I tell you something to do, you go do it. There is no debate here. This is not the one where we have a dialogue. There is no dialogue. This is one-sided. You listen, I tell you what to do, you go do it. End of story. Now, if you need me to break this down anymore, give me a second. Let me grab this belt. I'm going to break it down for you. Now, do you understand? Then they go do what they're supposed to do. And then we can go play, get ice cream or whatever. So as long as the love is there and you do it in a funny way, you don't have to be always fire and brimstone, even with your kids, because you're not supposed to lead them to fear you to the point they're all going scared to be around you. That's a sin. That is not what God is talking. That's not even love. That's abuse. So I just want to put that out there because I want you always to be even keel, just like God. God is even keel. He's merciful. He's gracious. He's also jealous. He's also a God of wrath. It's straight across the board. There is no dips in God like this. So there should be no dips in us. Okay? We shouldn't show favoritism. Mothers like to show favoritism a lot of times to their daughters, or for whatever reason, they'll give a little extra even when it comes to enforcing the word of God. But the truth of the matter is, they need to be straight across the board, fair with every child, treat every child the same with all the love, whether it's a blended family or not. I'm just telling y'all because this is where I'm led to go. We need to treat everybody the same because God is watching. And your book is being written right now of your life. Everything you do, everything you say, every place you go is being written in your book. What are you going to tell God as an excuse as to why you did certain things or you treated certain people a certain way as if God wasn't looking? God is always looking. Remember, he don't sleep. He ain't got nothing to do but take care of us.
Yeah, and we're a lot of work.
A lot of work.
If y'all have multiple kids, you already know that that's a lot of work, and God's got a lot of us down here. So, man, Jay, every time I love it, right? The conversation can go anywhere, and it's fun, but it's informative, right? Like it's not lacking, and y'all, the next time you will see us, it will be the new year. So next week is the Thursday is the 20. We won't be doing anything on the 26th, but that following Thursday, which I don't even know what that Thursday is.
That following Thursday is the 2nd.
We will be on the 2nd, right? The 2nd day of the new year. But still, we'll be here on the 2nd of January, right? And listen, it's been one heck of a year if really thinking about it, right? We started this, back in May, right? I think it was like May when we were talking about it. It is now December, and we're going into 2025. Listen, y'all, when we first started, I only thought it was going to be one episode. And next thing I know, he was like, if you ever want to come back, we're going to do a weekly thing. I'm all for it. And I said, yes. And next thing you know, here we go. And we're now in, like I said, December, going into 2025, and it's been amazing. Thanks for all who have been watched, who have become subscribers to the Mediocre Dad channel, but ultimately to watch us here on the Bible study. It means a lot. The channel has grown, and it's grown in large part because of what we've been doing on Thursdays. And it means a lot. I mean, I thank God, because when we first started, I think the channel was at less than 100 followers, and now we're at 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
I never know the stats. He never tell me the stats. So
I don't. So, okay, again, and he knows this, and I said this last week, right? I'm hard on myself wanting to be at 500 by this point. But then I realized when we got to 407, I was like, hold on. That means that 407 people have said, this channel is good enough for me to press the subscribe button and then even come back and watch it and keep up. And I was like, you know what? I need to be happy with what I got, because when I first started, I was like, man, getting to 100 is going to be basically impossible. Now we got 4, and it's amazing.
Well, the thing is, remember, God is the one that give increase.
Yeah.
He said, I add to the church daily as I see fit. So the fact that if God is lifted up, and I think what may help people to want to come back is our transparency.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not authentic and we tell it like it is. We don't sugarcoat anything, but we don't hide our feelings about, some of the way we feel about things that God has done in our lives or in life experiences as a whole. So I think that God is going to do what he's going to do, and it's only going to get better because we're really just now getting started. So I'm really excited that God is adding on and that people are being fed out there. I do thank you because people are checking out the book. So I definitely thank you for your support in that. Like I said, the third one will be coming out, and it's 30 chapters. The other 2 was just 14. This is 30 chapters.
I want you to know he added chapters.
I had to add because God said that. Every time I told at the other Bible study, they were like, no, you sure you're going to stop this time? Because you said that last week.
Yeah.
So I believe this is going to be it, with this. But I do thank you for your support. But like I said, God is doing some crazy things. And whatever you desire God to do for you this upcoming year, pray about it. Talk to God about it. He'll show you how to tweak what you're doing. If we're looking at using the body as an example, you want to lose weight or you want to get a little more stronger in the gym and start exercising to be a little more athletic, ask God to help you. He'll walk you with you, and he'll help you trim down the gut if you want a 9-pack like me. God is God. That's who God is. But ask him. You got to invite him. I promise you, he will show up and you will achieve your goal. You will not fail this year. If you've never kept your goal, every year you fail to get through it. I promise you, this year will be different. And if you want to fast.
I was going to say, let's talk about it before we get out.
Yeah, if you want to fast with us, we're going to start on the 1st of January, eating 1 meal a day at 6 o'clock in the evening for those that do it. If you take medication and you need to take it throughout the day, then cut 1 meal in half and eat it when you need to take your pills. But just separate that 1 meal so you just still with us on the 1 meal. We're doing that for 21 days. Only drinking water, no coffee, no energy drinks, nothing but water. And we're not regulating how much water you drink. Now look, when your stomach starts growling and it's going to growl, don't just fill it up with water. That's the part of it. It's the sacrifice that we're making so that God can bless us. But if this is your first time, drink all the water you want, because God will still meet you where you are. The whole point is to put forth the effort and let us do this together collectively so God can bless us collectively. And I promise you, God will.
Absolutely. Like you said, hey, we'll put some more stuff out. I'll put some more stuff on the Mediocre Dad's channel so you guys can be up to date and be aware of this. But like you said, you're more than welcome to join us, right? It means a lot if you do join us. I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be the first time that I've actually committed to a fast in this regards. And so I'm excited to see where it goes and see where God takes us, especially me in this journey and fasting and seeing what happens. So,
all right. Well, if you ever wanted to know about God and you say, well, I need more proof, fast with us and you'll get the proof you desire.
Absolutely. Hey, that's all we got, guys, and we're out. We'll catch you next time.